Continuing along with our discussion on the idea of manifest destiny and its impact on American society, we now turn our attention to the Mexican American War of 1845. Now, before we actually get into a discussion on the details of that war, it is important for us to first establish some of the events that led to this. The first was the Texan revolution against Mexico, okay, which took place in 1838. Then this was eventually followed by America's annexation of Texas in 1845. Uh, this annexation, it created a lot of tension between the U.S. and Mexico, and this tension would eventually snowball into other events, especially when it became clear that many Texans were still not satisfied with their status as being independent from Mexico. As we see in the next slide, Texas claimed territory after they got their freedom from Mexico. They claimed territory that was well within the boundaries of Mexico. There was a dispute as to where the borders of Texas and Mexico were. Okay, Texas believed that its borders extended to the Rio Grande River. If we go back, we see this is the blue line right here. This is the blue line, as you can see, the blue line at the bottom. However, Mexico believed that the Texas borders ended at the Nueces River. Neither side could agree on whether the border should or what where the border should be. Um, this received so much. This became such a volatile situation that President Polk, who definitely had ulterior motives, felt the need to get involved in this affair. He saw this as an excellent opportunity to use the war with Mexico as a way to acquire a lot of the lands to the west of Texas, such as New Mexico and California, modern day Nevada, and a few other places out that way. So let's take a look at what Polk did. So, as tensions rose, Polk needed some kind of a reason to actually enter into an armed conflict with Mexico. He couldn't find any reasons, so we find that in a lot of his decisions, um, they were a little careless. What he would do is he would set up guards. He would set up military presence on the border, on the borders of Mexico and on the disputed borders of Mexico and Texas, as well as sending troops well into Mexican borders. These consistent land encroachments eventually led to the Mexican government responding to Polk with force. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened as a result of that. Okay, what eventually happened was the Mexican government crossed the Rio Grande River, and they killed 9 U.S. soldiers. Now Polk had his justification for going to war with Mexico, so he went before Congress and he declared war. And here is the proclamation. On your final exam, you have a few questions related to this particular document here. Pay attention to who they're saying that who Polk is claiming is declaring war on, and pay attention to the events that led up to this. It will be on the final exam. Now, the declaration was supported by Congress, and Polk sent troops into Mexican territories to acquire New Mexico and California as two new American territories. We're going to see how that unfolds later. After the loss of over 36,000 lives from the U.S. side and the Mexican side, the U.S. came out victorious. They came out on top. And afterwards, they were able to establish several agreements. Okay. And a lot of these agreements were pretty lopsided, and they benefited the U.S. more than they benefited Mexico. But then again, the spoils of war go to the winners. So let's just take a look at what those spoils of war were. So We're looking at the treaties and purchases. The treaty that was signed immediately after the end of the war, that signified the end of this war, was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Excuse me. So let's look at some of the details of the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. It said that Mexico has to accept the Rio Grande River as the border. There's a typo there. Please ignore that. In addition to that, it said that Mexico had to cede New Mexico and California and all those other modern day states in that area. It had to cede these lands to the United States for the price of $15 million. In addition to this, it guaranteed Mexicans living in American territories the freedom of religion, ownership of property, bilingual elections, and open borders. This does not, however, necessitate or guarantee that these people will not be treated as second class citizens. Um, but at least on paper, it's there. Let's move on. The more minor purchase that takes place here is the Gadsden purchase. And basically, it was just an emissary from President Franklin Pierce, who purchased a small portion of land from Mexico just a few years after the Guadalupe Hidalgo, the Guadalupe Hidalgo agreement. Excuse me. Um, it was just a few years after that. This land that was bought, this completed the southern borders of the United States as they exist today. Some very important things to understand about what we just covered. And one of the main things that we need to understand is that war is sometimes used as a means to acquire wealth, power, or any other advantageous situations. Okay, war is a political tool, and we see that it is used here uh, to expand the territories and the borders of the United States in the mid 1800s, under the concept and under the motivating ideology of manifest destiny. This will be a recurring theme as we continue along with our studies. Now, refer to the focus questions.